Cardboard Chronicles of Western New York is an informative platform dedicated to raising awareness about homelessness and its various implications. Throughout the program, we will showcase diverse perspectives, ranging from those who assist individuals experiencing homelessness to those who are or have experienced homelessness themselves. Sometimes those will intersect. Given the vast and complex nature of homelessness, we will also delve into its connection to broader systemic issues such as poverty.
On Cardboard Chronicles of Western New York, our coverage would include critical topics such as mental health, societal perceptions, support systems, and interactions with the homeless community. Additionally, we will offer practical advice on how individuals can contribute and make a positive impact. Our goal is to foster a deeper understanding and inspire meaningful actions to address homelessness.
Welcome all. This is Cardboard Chronicles of Western New York, Episode 1, The Myths That Surround Homelessness. In preparation to those myths and the facts that accompany them, we will talk about a few different things, including what the definition of literal homelessness is for HUD. We will go into public approaches and attitudes that we read about in When We Walk By, Forgotten Humanity, Broken Systems, and the Role We Can Each Play in Ending Homelessness in America by Kevin Adler, Donald Burns, Amanda Ban, and Adriana Bilbiha. I think I pronounced that correctly. I hope so. We will also dive into the things that homeless people lose and why that's meaningful, and then we will dive right into the myths and the facts that accompany them. So diving right in, what is homelessness? So according to HUD, Category 1, literally homeless, means the individual or family lacks a fixed, regular, and adequate nighttime residence, meaning they have a primary nighttime residence that is a public or private place not meant for human habitation, is living in a publicly or privately operated shelter designated to provide temporary living arrangements, which includes congregate shelters, transitional housing, and hotels and motels paid for by charitable organizations or by federal, state, and local government programs, or they're exiting an institution where they resided for 90 days or less and who had previously resided in an emergency shelter or a place not meant for habitation immediately before entering that institution. Moving forward, now that we've established a little bit of what homelessness is and how HUD measures that for those who are experiencing it, unfortunately, HUD does not recognize couch surfing as homelessness. It's a tricky situation because we barely have housing for the people who are experiencing street homelessness, and so to then also provide services for those who are couch surfing would then over exhaust the system, unfortunately. But now moving on to some public approaches and attitudes. We read about this again on When We Walk By.
First, let's talk about paternalism, which is taking action or making decisions for another person under the belief that those actions or decisions might benefit the person. So for this, we have two categories of paternalism: progressive paternalism and punitive paternalism. Progressive paternalism is characterized by pity and self-righteousness. We try to play the father role as healers. In this model, we feel sorry for our helpless, unhoused neighbors. We are all struggling with severe substance abuse. Who are all struggling with severe substance abuse, untreated mental illness, and lack of opportunities. We feel a moral duty to fix them. And punitive paternalism is characterized by condemnation in law and order, in which we play the father role as a tough, loving enforcer, like a judge at a sentencing hearing. In this model, we feel anger towards our misbehaving, unhoused neighbors who are all drug or alcohol addicted sinners who make poor decisions, and we have to punish them for their bad behaviors. And these two models, we see that they're kind of trying to see it as the two extremes, whether we see them as those that need, that require our help, that require our pity are basically our scraps, or we see them as those we need to punish for what they do, uh, um, what they do or what they have gone through. And neither of these decisions take into consideration or see the unhoused individual as their own person, as uh, an individual that is just going through some issues that just like any of us is going through.
Yeah, I think too it takes away their choice, right? And so I think you were getting at that as well. It looks away from their humanity and it takes away their choice too, and so they're either needing to be fixed or punished. And neither approach is the right approach to take. I think it's really important to consult the person that you are helping in what they need, because they are the expert in their own lives. And I don't think that choice should be taken away just because your circumstances are a little heavy. Next, we have NIMBYism, which is not in my backyard phenomena. And according again to the book, it involves a narrowly defined self-interest that excludes people and behaviors that we perceive to be unlike ourselves, such as people experiencing homelessness. NIMBYs who oppose new housing projects in their neighborhoods for people emerging from homelessness cite fears of physical safety, drug paraphernalia, broken bottles, vandalism, and robbery to justify their exclusionary posture, on the assumption that our unhoused neighbors are untrustworthy riffraff, or that their presence in the neighborhood would be at odds with the local character, which must be defended. The effect of NIMBYism is to exclude and seclude people experiencing homelessness, forcing them away from everyone else into less desirable, more dangerous spaces. And so I just want to highlight a few things from what I just read. The things that they cite as potential violations of the character they're trying to uphold for their community is physical safety, and so they fear violence, drug paraphernalia, and so they fear usage of substances, broken bottles, again with the usage, vandalism, and robbery. And they use that to go, we don't want you here because this is what you will bring. And it does it in a way that kind of says, we already know. You don't have to show us. You don't have to tell us. We already know. Right? In addition, it sort of labels the unhoused neighbors as untrustworthy riffraff. And so this turns back to the paternalism. And I think that they could go hand in hand as well, where you go, I don't want you here, and then you reinforce the paternalism as well, and you go, well, you must be punished because these are the kind of things you would bring into the neighborhood, so we don't want you here and we gotta punish you, sort of thing. And that ultimately just ends up marginalizing the unhoused individuals, and we experience this other phenomenon called othering, which is a process where a person or group is perceived and treated as different, often leading to marginalization and exclusion. And again, what this does, just like NIMBYism, it involves creating an us versus them. So we have this us group and then the exclusionary them group. And of course, they come up with a list of differences between the two. And of course, they have these opinions about what the other group would entail or would be encompassed by. And this doesn't have to be proven or anything. These are just opinions and beliefs they have beforehand. This can lead to prejudice, discrimination, and even violence. And to me, it was interesting that, in a way, it could be the case that the people trying to exclude unhoused individuals from their community become much like what they fear and what they claim of the unhoused individuals, because we see a lot that unhoused individuals face a lot of violence while living in the streets. It's a very dangerous thing to be doing. And then, of course, we had created a podcast, a PowerPoint with a picture here with a home builder standing in the center and two citizens standing to either side. The one has a sign that reads, "No more homes outside the city." The other reads no more homes inside the city. And so the home builder is left there asking, so where am I supposed to build the housing? Right? So nobody wants these unhoused individuals in their community. Where do we put them? Sort of thing. Right? And of course that leads us into that gray area of those who support the unhoused population but still don't want them anywhere near their communities. So it's not always at the extreme ends. There is sometimes that middle ground of, well, hey, I support you and I want you to do good, but I still don't want you in my community because that would make it different in a way I'm not ready to accept, right? Or in a way that I've fabricated in my mind, whether or not I have facts, and I'm just kind of going with that, regardless of what might actually be the case. Moving forward, some of the things that unhoused people lose, we will go through next, and of course why that's meaningful to them as well.
So some of the things that are lost is their homes. So that stability and safe housing is no longer an option for them. They lose their friends and family, so they have no support. They lose their job, which is their form of income, and recovering from homelessness is almost impossible. They lose their health insurance, so visits to the medic is costly, unobtainable, which can then further lead to the growing use of substance or the worsening of their undiagnosed mental health problems that many of them go through. Their belongings, so that the feeling of home is a distant feeling to them. Not having poverty, not having a stable environment. Some of us get so used to kind of the privilege that it is to have a roof over our heads, to go to sleep on a bed at night, to just have food every day. So knowing that this is a privilege that they don't have the option of experiencing. Their involvement with the community, so that asking for help becomes harder. It pushes them away, feeling that they, as some documentaries or others have said, kind of lesser, as in individuals that we don't want to see out there. We know the struggle that is happening, but we don't want to see it. Um,
And it's unfortunate that some people carry that position about unhoused individuals as well. You know, it's an, I don't even know that it's an acceptance. It's just kind of an acceptance to overlook, right? And to kind of pretend that it's not there, even though it's very obviously there. Alright, now we're going to dive into the myths that surround homelessness and some of the facts that surround it. Some of these I was shocked by, others I had to check my own biases, so it was definitely important to go through this, and so we are looking forward to sharing it with you. Okay, myth number 1. Homelessness is a permanent problem. We will never solve it. And so what's important to consider with this myth is that mass homelessness is a result of a lack of affordable housing for people on the lower end of the economic spectrum, right? And so what we experience with this is people getting paid low wages with high rent, right? And then as rent increases over the years, there's also less housing vouchers and less affordable housing. And so there's this discrepancy between what the person is making and what the person has to pay. And so it's not sustainable because they're not getting paid enough to afford their rent, right? And then this also brings back NIMBYism, because where do you put the housing? Where do you put the affordable housing for these people to be able to sustain themselves on the wages that they make, right? And so it's a multifaceted problem in which they're not being paid enough, housing is too high, they have other priorities, right? Like their health, like having groceries for the month, like having phone service because that's their little connection to the world, right? And the government is simply not implementing some of these solutions. We can bring back the housing vouchers, right? But then that wouldn't change the fact that landlords, some of them don't go about accepting them, and so there's discrimination on that front as well, right? And the government could also do more to build more affordable housing in areas maybe that are run down a little bit. And I don't mean that in a disrespectful way, but that could use improvement, right? Like we can talk about the east side of Buffalo, right? There's so many empty buildings that have so much potential, and no one's taking the time to go, this is the building that I'm going to fix, and I'm going to bring life back into this community.
Myth number 2 is if people can afford a television or a smartphone, then they are really poor. See, as the cost of consumers and even some traditionally luxury goods like television and smartphone has gone down in price, the cost of an essential like food and housing has steadily gone up. People own these devices now not simply because it's the next big thing, but because it's often the only way to stay connected with the world. Phone and the internet are critical to securing employment and maintaining it. With ever advancing technology, it is imperative that the vulnerable group not be left behind. So in this little paragraph that I just read, it's just referring back to the luxury goods as we see nowadays. Tablets that you could get for you could get the expensive one for thousands of dollars, but there's also ones nowadays that you can find on Amazon for $20, $30. So these luxury goods have become now common name commodities, but things that we need for our survival, which is food, shelter, safety, those things have become more and more expensive, not only to get but to also maintain. So we have to understand that having a phone nowadays might be where it might not even be where it's a phone that they bought. It might be a phone that was those prepaid phones or government assistant phones that are offered or that are used, but it's still not a representation of exactly what a person is going through.
Myth number 3: it is wrong to give money to people on the street because it is always a scam or they will use the money for drugs. Right, and so what I have to say to this is that most people asking for money on the street is because they need it, right? It's for survival, it's to sustain their livelihoods, right? And you can't control how other people use their money, but you can trust in your intentions and good judgment, right? And so if you take the time to have a conversation with them, you can maybe gauge from that conversation what their intentions are for the money, right? And I feel that unhoused individuals are honest about their situation for the most part. And so I don't think it would ever be the case that you would be giving an unhoused person money and that they would be lying to you about it, right? Because why would they lie? They are at a place where they need this money to sustain themselves, and you're the person that is willing to give it to them, and so now they have to sort of prove themselves to you, and that just plays into power dynamics in very weird ways. But it doesn't have to be that way. Again, if you take the time to just have a brief conversation with them, you can gauge again what they will be using that money for, and most likely it would be to sustain themselves, right? And if you're uncomfortable giving any amount of money because you don't know whether or not it will be used for something harmful like drugs, you can also give gift cards to specific locations like Tim Hortons as an alternative, right? But then you run into situations where the money might be needed for like a phone payment instead of food, and now what they have is a gift card to Tim Hortons, which is not really going to help their situation, right? And so again, it comes back to deciding whether or not, from the conversation you've had, it's a good idea to give these people money. I don't think it's a scam all the time. It doesn't have to be. And I think we owe it to them to have the benefit of the doubt and to trust them a little bit with their intentions.
Myth 4: homeless people prefer the street. People who sleep unsheltered on the street desperately want to feel safe. They want a safe place to live. While the legal rights to shelter and the New York State provides a critical safety net for homeless individuals and families, people who've suffered on the street for years or who struggle with certain psychiatric and medical conditions may find large congregate shelters a difficult place to stay in. The municipal shelters have many rules and regulations which can be confusing and dehumanizing. Most have Baroque-style dorms with as many as 100 beds and a room that can feel unsafe. In our decades...
This is theirs. And so we got this fact to accompany the myth from the Coalition of Homelessness of New York City. And so what they're stating here is that in their decades of work helping hundreds of thousands of homeless individuals and at-risk individuals, they've never come across a person who would turn down a real offer for decent housing. Right, and so what this emphasizes is that people want to feel safe. They want to feel like they have a sense of privacy, like they can make home, like they can practice self-care. You know what I mean? All these things we take for granted, and when we don't have, can be largely detrimental to our well-being. And so it is not the case that homeless people prefer the streets. They prefer a safe place to be. But then we also have to take into consideration how it might take time to adapt back into staying indoors after being outdoors for so long. It's a process.
Yes, and we can also remember that taking it from their perspective of an individual who is unhoused, maybe traveling miles, hundreds of miles, or 10, 20 miles, that single day going from shelter to shelter, trying to find a home or somewhere to stay for the night or for the next couple of nights. They might be tired, they might be hungry, so them choosing to sleep, not really a choice, but them sleeping at night might not be a choice that they're making, but kind of what they have to do. It's not a choice, but this is their only option.
Mm-hmm. So then it becomes even more so out of survival. Myth number 5, homeless people are dangerous. And so the coalition found here that people experiencing homelessness are far more likely to be victims of crimes than perpetrators. The vulnerability of homelessness increases the risk of being victimized. One study found that half the homeless people surveyed reported experiencing violence, and the risks were higher for people who were older, women, or those who were homeless for more than 2 years. Stable housing is key to safety. And so a few things to highlight there. The groups that are most vulnerable, again, are the elderly, women, and those who are homeless for more than 2 years, so the chronically homeless. Right, and so this goes back again to the myth we just covered, where homeless people don't actually prefer the streets and they want, again, a safe place to be. Right, and so what's perceived of them is that they are the danger that they face. Right, and so in an ironic twist of events, they're being blamed for the things that they're being put through. And so that kind of returns us back to paternalism in a way, because homeless people are are subjected to being punished for the experiences that they're going through, even though sometimes it's outside of choice.
Myth 6 is all homeless people have mental illness or substance use disorder. The majority of homeless New Yorkers are members of families with children who were evicted or are fleeing domestic violence and are living in shelters or temporarily doubled up or tripled up in homes of others. But but disability rates are in fact quite high amongst families without minor children and single adults in shelters. At 75% and 65% respectively, the instability and trauma of homelessness exacerbate these challenges and make it even harder for people to manage their health. So, what this paragraph is saying is homelessness itself have a huge representation of individuals who are experiencing mental health issues or substance abuse issues, but the the main thing we have to say about that is not seeing it for just not just seeing it as in writing, but knowing that the representation is higher due to the fact that those individuals don't have health care, don't see their primary care provider every year, don't have health insurance to one be diagnosed or have services, but then afterwards get medication that helps them to live a more stable life, live a healthier life. And that itself is not something that is talked about, but with paternalism, something that we scrutinize or try to punish them for the substance use that we see, but not acknowledge that in the street, the choice. We are not here to discuss whether right or wrong, but in the street, when the choice of it is in a cold night, wanting to feel warm, knowing you have nowhere to go, and to you, believing that drinking alcohol might make you feel warmer, while it doesn't, but to them might make them feel warmer, or might make them ease the pain of being outside all day, or those that have mental health disorders that have never been diagnosed, never been to the hospital in years, and who have had to go through this journey alone to multiple through years, and we see that constantly in the homeless population, and that itself is what we should be trying to help and try to provide resources for, provide information for, provide free resources, free diagnostic things that will offer a better life or a change to the individual, and not just saying that these populations are just a representation of these illnesses.
I think too, what we can get at with that is with the whole in respect to their humanity, right? In respect to their choice, in respect to their right not to be defined by their diagnosis or whatever struggles they're having with substances, which also is a diagnosis, but somehow I felt that the distinction needed to be made. That we remember that these are people too, that they're struggling with real things, but they're not to be defined by them, right? And so we interact with them just like we would anyone else, right? Assuming that you treat everyone else respectfully and empathetically and compassionately, right? And so we preserve that for them when we can just approach them and say, hey, you're a human being just like me. I want to help you. All right, so that brings us to the end of this episode. Thank you again so much for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you on future episodes as well. If you are interested in being on the episode, please find our information on Facebook, and you can contact us and be on it. Any last words, Martins?
As well as the PowerPoint that was referenced in this podcast will also be posted. If anybody would like to kind of view it themselves, review it, or if you yourself are a more visual person. And we hope to see you on the next episode.
All right, thank you so much. Have a great day.